And I mean, at this morning's press briefing, Helen Zille actually mentioned that Dr. Mamphela wanted to remain the leader of Agang while being a presidential candidate for the DA. Why do you think she would want to do that, like having two seats at once?
Well, first of all, one should ask the DA first. How do you have an external candidate as your candidate for a presidential, of course we don't have a presidential system, but this is how it has come to be phrased, as their presidential candidate. That means that either you have a bankruptcy of leadership within your, or at least you perceive your party as having bankruptcy of leadership in that it's not capable of fielding its own candidates, that the candidate needs to be external. So from that instance, if a party has an electoral college, has a list system, why would an external individual be part of that list? And that individual is not just, it's not a Glenys Breitenbach who's a public servant. It's someone who's a leader of another political party. So from the outset, the invitation was confusing. And naturally, of course, for Mamphela herself, it is confusing for her. Why would you want to be a candidate for another party meanwhile you have your own parties, so you can't really have it both ways, and she was trying to have it both ways. It's not feasible at all, though at the structural level there's not something that maybe makes Mamphela, at least how we've come to understand her party Agang. There's no perhaps ideological difference, because there's not much of ideology in Agang, there's not much of policy in Agang. So basically it's the makeup of individuals that is slightly different, and from that instance and from that understanding, one would assume that it wouldn't have worked out in any case.
Can you highlight some of the differences that you speak about that would have made this combination not work out whatsoever?
Well, both individuals are quite ambitious, from that very level. After this whole fallout and when this merger was announced, or impending merger was announced, quite a lot of chatter was around what happens when you put two strong-willed individuals in a political party. Well, we know what happens. Cope happens. Mbaziwe Mashilowa and Musiwa Lekota happens, or even in some case maybe Mluleki George happens. So it doesn't work. It becomes a competition of egos. It becomes personal projects. It becomes about legacies. And Mamphela in her own right, she does have some struggle credentials. She's an academic. She was an academic, businesswoman. So basically she's accomplished. And this is another step for her, one would assume, as part of this accomplishment timeline. And now put that individual with the Helen Zille that we know is quite strong and very strong-willed individual who speaks her mind. That would not have worked even from a relationship point of view. And as we always like to think about political parties as organizations, at the end of the day, like a company, like a political party, it's about personal relationships. It's about social interaction. And if it can't work at that level, it can certainly not work if it's to be universalized to the organizational level.